Hi, I'm George Burnett, the Breadman. I'm excited you've chosen the finest in automatic bread machines, the Breadman. I made bread by hand for years. I even owned my own bakery. And then I discovered the bread machine for home use, and it changed my life. You see, I like to eat, and I like to cook, especially with whole foods that are as close to their natural state as possible. Doesn't mean that we have the time to cook like our grandparents did. So I wholeheartedly support modern conveniences for time saving. If I didn't, I wouldn't be a bread machine advocate, some say fanatic. The Breadman bread machine makes it possible, practical, and logical to make fresh bread all the time. Whether you have the 1.5 pound or the 2 pound Breadman bread machine, I know you'll love using it so much you'll be able to scratch bread right off your shopping list. So just follow the instructions of this easy video and enjoy fresh baked bread.
Congratulations on your purchase of a Breadman bread machine. Now you can have fresh baked bread in your own home anytime without the fuss and mess of traditional baking methods. Simply measure the ingredients, place them in the pan, and let the Breadman do all the work. The Breadman will mix, knead, rise, and bake your bread. Because it's pre-programmable, the Breadman will also bake bread while you sleep or work, so you can have warm, fresh, healthy bread ready when you want it anytime. At first, you may be surprised by the satisfying flavor of these healthy breads, especially if you're not accustomed to eating whole grain foods. They taste so rich and delicious, you will think you've discovered a new food. In fact, you'll find many of the so-called health breads at the supermarket aren't all that healthy. Sugar and shortening have often been added to enhance the flavor. And for many of these breads to claim any food value at all, the flour has been enriched with as few as 4 of the 26 essential nutrients stripped from the grain during the milling process. When you read labels of mass-produced bread, you will see that most bread flours are enriched with niacin, iron, thiamine, and riboflavin. The organic whole grain flours used in natural whole grain mixes and recipes have all the vitamins, minerals, and fiber just as nature provided. The Breadman has been designed with special thought to the health conscious. It allows you to make whole grain natural breads that are high in complex carbohydrates, proteins, and fiber without unwanted preservatives, pesticide residues, bleached flour, animal fats, or other additives found in mass-produced breads. With home-baked bread, you control the ingredients to suit your taste and the personal dietary needs of you and your family. In fact, with the Breadman Bread Baker, not only will you feel good about the great food you are feeding your family, you will never need to buy store-bought bread again. The Breadman is loaded with features, including 7 bread settings and dough only, incredibly simple operations, a delayed finish function, fruit and nut ingredient signal, auto keep warm, and an extra large glass window for viewing. Now, let's take a closer look at your new Breadman. The Breadman has 4 major parts: the lid with steam vent and glass window, the non-stick baking pan, pan handle, and kneading blade, the inner case with heating element, the control panel with touch pads that give you total control of the baking process in a simple, straightforward way. Also, please note the instruction manual and save it for future reference. It has many tips and more detailed instructions. Pay special attention to the important safeguards and safety tips found on pages 2 and 3. One popular way to use your Breadman at home is to use a bread machine bread mix available at your local grocery store. These mixes are formulated specifically for use in automatic bread makers. They come in a variety of whole wheat, multigrain, and other recipes. Be sure the mix is for a 1, 1.5, or 2 pound loaf. For this machine, the total amount of flour used should not exceed 3 1/4 cups. Read the instructions carefully, and if there is a bread maker brand chart on the box, follow the line for the 1.5 pound size Breadman. Let's show you how easy it is to bake bread. First, open the lid and remove the bread pan. Rinse it thoroughly before your first use. Place the kneading blade into the bottom of the baking pan and firmly fit it on the drive shaft. When baking with one of these mixes, measuring the correct amount of water is critical. Use a measuring cup that is accurate and you trust. Measure out the correct amount of water and pour it into the baking pan. Now open the large ingredient package and gently pour it on top. Remember, always put your wet ingredients in the pan first. The yeast always goes in last. Using your finger, make an indentation in the flour mix. Open the small yeast packet and carefully pour the contents into this pocket. This is especially important if you were to use the delayed baking feature. The yeast must not touch the water because early activation will give unsatisfactory results. Place the baking pan back into the inner casing, noting the indication of the front marks on the lip of the baking pan. Press it firmly until it snaps into place. Now, close the lid. Don't open the lid during the baking process. The lid is like an oven door. If you open it during baking, you'll affect the baking temperature, and your bread may not turn out as you'd liked. If you would like to check the progress of the bread, look through the window. Don't touch the casing because it becomes hot. Inside your Breadman, the dough is being mixed and allowed to rise in a temperature-controlled environment. Then, at the appropriate time, it punches the dough down, controls its final rise, then bakes it perfectly. By the way, the window will fog up early in the rising baking process. This is normal, and the condensation will dissipate as the baking continues. On the control panel, you'll find the Select pad. Press the pad until the light on the display corresponds with the type of bread, desired crust color, and size of loaf you are preparing. Now, press Start. The display will tell you how much time there is left until the bread is done, counting down every 60 seconds. For whole wheat cycles, the mix initially rests for up to 30 minutes. No movement occurs in the pan. This is normal. That's it. In just a few hours, you'll have delicious, fresh, home-baked bread. When the Breadman is finished baking, it will chime. Remove the loaf pan using a good pair of oven mitts. Open the lid, the machine will still be hot, and lift the baking pan out using the handle. Slide the loaf out onto a cooling rack. If you place the loaf directly on a flat, unventilated surface, the crust will sweat and become soggy. If you forget to remove the bread right away, don't worry. There is an automatic cycle which gradually cools the bread down. Check the baking pan for the kneading blade. If it is missing, it is in the bottom of the loaf. When the bread is cooled, remove it carefully with plastic tongs or a wooden spoon. Never use metal on the blade or the baking pan. This is a non-stick surface and can be damaged by metal utensils or scouring pads. After the bread has cooled about 20 minutes, it is ready for slicing. For clean slices, it is best to use a bread knife with a long serrated cutting edge. Baking bread from scratch is one of the most rewarding cooking experiences. Working the dough, the aroma of the baking hearth have always been part of human life. With today's hectic lifestyles and the Breadman, baking bread has become easy enough to do every day. Baking bread is an acquired skill. The subtleties of different grains and yeasts, your altitude, and the temperature and humidity of the day all have small effects on the final product. Some recipes are harder to master, but with time and practice, anyone can make even the most specialized of breads successfully. In this section, we will focus on a bread that requires little baking skill yet is healthful and tastes great. We will be making a large 1.5 pound loaf of honey whole wheat. It is best to lay out all your ingredients in front of you before you start to assemble them. You'll need 1 cup plus 2 tablespoons of water, 3 cups of 100% whole wheat flour, 1.5 teaspoons of sea salt, 1.5 tablespoons of honey, 3 tablespoons dry milk or whey, 1.5 tablespoons of canola oil, and 1 3/4 teaspoons of active yeast. Remove the baking pan and make sure the kneading blade is in place. Carefully measure out the water and pour it into the baking pan. The water should be about 80 degrees. The rest of the ingredients should be room temperature. Add the honey, scraping the cup out with a spatula. Now add the oil. Canola oil contains no saturated fat and is preferred for healthy breads. Next, using a measuring cup designed for measuring dry ingredients, Measure out the flour by spooning it into the cup, then leveling it with a knife. Scooping directly with the cup will overpack the flour. Pour the flour directly into the baking pan. Measure the sea salt and add it to the mixture. Add the dry milk or whey. Whey contains less fat and is a perfect substitute for the dry milk. If you can't find it, dry skim milk is next best. Now make an indentation in the top of the flour mixture and place your yeast there. Return the baking pan into the oven compartment and fit it into place. Close the lid. Press the select pad till the light appears at whole wheat 1.5 pound. Then press start. Now you're done. The Breadman takes over. With less than 10 minutes of prep time and no big messes or cleanups, you'll have the best homemade bread you've ever baked. Cleanup is simple. Just wipe down the machine with a damp sponge, and if necessary, carefully wash the baking pan and kneading blade as you would any nonstick surface, avoiding contact with any metal. The Breadman has a few additional features that make bread making in your own home more convenient and versatile than ever. Delayed finish feature, pre-programming, dough-only feature, fruit and nut add-in feature. Waking up to the aroma of fresh bread or cinnamon rolls in the morning used to be limited to holidays or special occasions. But the Breadman has made it easy to wake up every day to fresh bread with its delay baking feature. You can prepare the ingredients in advance, turn the machine on, and the bread is ready when you want it, up to 13 hours in advance. With a few added steps and some extra care with the handling of the yeast, you can pre-program your Breadman, and we promise it is very easy to do. Prepare your mix or scratch recipe as demonstrated earlier. Place the pan into the casing and close the lid. Select the proper setting for the bread you are making, and then with the arrows indicating up and down, select the amount of time you would like to elapse between now and when you want the bread finished. If you'd like bread at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning and it's 10:30 p.m., push the arrow until 9:30 appears. That's the time difference from 10:30 p.m. to 8 a.m. As you see, the time advances in 10-minute intervals. If you depress the button and hold it, the time will advance very quickly. The down arrow will help you adjust the time downward. Now, press start. The time set light will light up, and at the pre-selected time, your bread will be finished. The Breadman can also help you with other baking chores. Making rolls or braided breads is possible using the Breadman and a conventional oven. The Breadman will mix, knead, raise your dough, and tell you when it's ready. To use the dough-only feature, mix your recipe as we've talked about. Then select the dough-only setting. When the machine chimes that the dough is finished, remove the pan, then remove the dough from the pan. Form it into the desired shape and bake it in a conventional oven according to the recipe. Due to spoilage with fresh ingredients, we recommend against using the delay bake program on the dough cycle. Some recipes ask for the addition of fruits, such as raisins or nuts, for extra nutrition and flavor. If these ingredients are added too early during the mixing, they can break apart. So the Breadman has a special signal for adding fruits, nuts, and vegetables. Prepare the complete recipe omitting the fruit or nuts. Place the pan in the compartment and close the lid. Select the whole wheat or basic setting, then press start. When the dough is ready to take the additional ingredients, the machine will chime. At this time, add the extra ingredients by lifting the lid and pouring them in. Close the lid, and the machine will automatically resume the kneading process. The fruit and nut beeper does not activate during the dough-only or express bread. Cleanup is easy with the Breadman. If needed, wipe out the baking pan with soapy water and a soft sponge. Again, never use scouring pads or metal utensils because they ruin non-stick finishes. If you drip something on the unit itself or inside the baking chamber, let the machine cool completely. Make sure the machine is unplugged. Then, using a damp, soft sponge, wipe the mess away. Well, there you have it. Healthy home bread making is now at your fingertips. We hope you enjoy years of this natural nutrition for you and your family. Using a broad selection of the finest recipe ingredients, you and the Breadman are now in charge of your own healthy bakery. For more information about this machine or for replacement parts, just call 1-800-233-9054, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Central Standard Time, Monday through Friday. Thank you.